New York owes so much of its character to its streets, and we've got more than 6,000 miles of them. Not just people movers, but our city's most basic and fundamental public space. Places where New Yorkers come together to play, convene, bump into each other, schmooze. Our changing streetscapes have been, since our founding, of great importance to MAS. With our annual April Streets Month, MAS continues to provide a platform for discussion and debate on the ways in which our streets are key to our city's livability. Holly White once wrote, "The street is the river of life in the city, the place where we come together, the pathway to the center." No one understands this eloquent maxim better than our next speaker, New York City Transportation Commissioner Jeanette Sadakan. As this week's New York Magazine wrote, Jeanette has become a roving guru of streetscapes, and her bike lane program has emboldened pedaling advocates around the country. She has revolutionized our city's streets for the better, and under Jeanette's leadership, the DOT is working harder than ever to make our city's streets truly accessible to all New Yorkers of all ages, from drivers to pedestrians to bicyclists. Paul Steely White, you can bike, but you can't hide. I see you. In 2009, MAS presented Jeanette and the DOT with an annual award for the department's breakthrough Sustainable Streets Strategic Plan, which introduced us to the DOT's now numerous public plazas, public spaces which would make even Holly White proud. Beginning with Sustainable Streets, the DOT's first strategic plan published in 2008, Jeanette has implemented a series of innovative projects: the creation of the Broadway Boulevard, new select bus service routes in the Bronx and Manhattan, the installation of 18 plazas, the addition of more than 250 miles of on-street bike lanes, car-free summer streets, weekend pedestrian walks, and a new street design manual requiring higher quality street designs for New York City. And all of this while carrying out DOT's traditional role of operating and maintaining those 6,000 miles of streets and highways, nearly 800 bridges, 1.3 million street signs, 300,000 street lights, and 12,000 signalized intersections, and last but not least, the Staten Island Ferry. Who knew? Which carries more than 20 million passengers each year. This woman, she is also responsible for completely reinvigorating the DOT, making it a key agency in the Bloomberg administration. Jeanette is president of the National Association of City Transportation Officials, chair of the Transportation Research Board's Committee on Transportation Issues in Major U.S. Cities, and was appointed to the Energy Secretary's Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy, just in case we didn't get the Energy Advisory Committee. It is a great thrill and honor, and please join me in welcoming the 2011 Jane Jacobs medalist, Commissioner Jeanette Sadakan.
Wow. Well, that was the best introduction I think I've ever had. And, you know, quoting such nice things that were said about me is really an unusual position for me to be in. So I just want to say thanks, Vin. It is just wonderful to be back here at MAS for what has become a really important annual event in the city. And usually I come here and I talk about what we're doing on bike lanes, what we're doing on plazas, everything that we're doing to reinvigorate our streets, to update our streets so that they more clearly reflect the needs of a 21st century city. And I show you a lot of really cool before and after shots. But when I got the invitation to speak at the summit this year, I was asked to talk about crumbling infrastructure. So I don't have as much eye candy as I usually do for these sessions, but it is an extraordinarily important topic, and it is an issue that we work on each and every day. We have 4,500 employees at the New York City Department of Transportation, and they work extraordinarily hard to deliver the safe streets, the safe bridges, the safe ferry infrastructure that 8.4 million New Yorkers depend on every day. So while the topic is renewing aging infrastructure, I think from my perspective, we have some very good news. We do face challenges. Oops, I guess I can't go back. Can I go back? All right. Go back. That's so nice. I wish I could do that in real life. But the Bloomberg administration has made an unprecedented investment in the city's infrastructure. It's taking care of the basic bones, the streets and the bridges in New York City. And because we've been taking care of the basics, that allows us to innovate on top of the city streets. And what we're doing is it puts us in a position to bring long overdue changes to the streets of New York and change the way they are configured. And New York has come a very long way since the 1970s when people were really leaving the city. And it seemed that the future of the city itself was really in question. And a lot of that recovery, I think, is due to the renewed investment in the city's infrastructure. There is really no way that we could have gotten to the thriving New York City of the 1990s and 2000s with the subways of 1982. And I think it's fascinating to see how the city's history and its fortunes track improvement in our city's transportation systems. So if you fast forward to the Bloomberg administration, and Plan YC has been generally seen as an environmental initiative. But if you look closely, you will see that the administration's approach to the long-term health of the city is tied to our transportation infrastructure and our transportation capacity. And Plan YC really understands that the basis for New York City's history of growth and greatness was really the heroic construction of our rail network, of our subway network, of our road and bridge and tunnels that tie all the urban pieces together across the Harlem River bridges and the East River bridges. So in addition to some of the headline-grabbing elements like congestion pricing and then more recently the installation of 200 miles of bike lanes, Plan YC called for a new generation of investment in our road and bridge infrastructure, both on the public transportation side and also from the street and bridge side. And in fact, even before Plan YC, the administration was making huge investments in our bridge investment through the city's capital budget, and now we actually have, the city's bridges are in the best condition that they've been in generations. And this is continued through the release of Plan YC in 2007. And just before Memorial Day, we actually announced that DOT had spent over $4.3 billion on over 800 projects to improve our road and bridge network. And that is an unprecedented surge of commitment in state of good repair work. And I think it's also played a substantial role in keeping the construction industry employed during a very difficult economic time. And the investments that we're talking about here affect virtually all New Yorkers and virtually all neighborhoods in the city. In addition to improving our bridge conditions, we are also resurfacing more streets than ever. We have literally rebuilt the infrastructure of Lower Manhattan. We are doing more pothole repairs than ever due to the tough recent winters. And you can see tangible progress. If you were last year here, July 26th, and you got up early in the morning, you would have seen the Willis Avenue Bridge float under our beautiful East River bridges. It really was an incredible sight to see. And the bridge's main span was actually built off-site and then floated into place and is now carrying traffic and being linked with improved connections on the Harlem River Drive and also on the Major Deegan Expressway. And I'm going to talk about a few more points on the city's infrastructure that are not well known. First, on the bridge program, I think it's really important, especially in light of a lot of the calamities that we see across the country on our infrastructure program. You've seen the bridge collapse in Minneapolis, that in light of these calamities, we have to do everything we can to transform our infrastructure into high-tech infrastructure as we go. And for example, when we redecked the Williamsburg Bridge, throughout the entire structure, we put gauges on it, which allow us to monitor in real time what's happening with the components on those bridges so that we understand what the impact is of the thousands of trucks that travel across that span every year and every day, and similarly on the truck trips. And we've also built sensors into all of our bridge infrastructure, acoustic sensors, motion sensing sensors, and that allows us to do remote monitoring of the bridge components and inspection work. New York City is also the setting for the largest infrastructure program in the country, thanks to the Federal Stimulus Act of 2009. And at least in the infrastructure area, we can see the impact on the work that's being done, the employment that's taken place. It's been a real home run for New York. We're receiving over $250 million of federal stimulus money, and it includes the rehabilitation, as you can see here, of the St. George Ferry Terminal. And at that terminal, we are replacing the old bus ramps and the outdated ferry terminal infrastructure there. And I have to say that, stimulus funding has been a really critical resource for us in New York City. It has allowed us to move forward with a lot of road and bridge projects which simply would not have happened without it. We would not be able to proceed with the work that we're able to do thanks to the stimulus money. But that said, it really has been a short gap measure. We have a 3-year delay in federal transportation funding authorization, and it is a huge challenge. It is one of the biggest challenges that we face. Chris Ward, I think, once said recently that we can't do more with less. We're doing less with less. And in order for us to do more, we really need to have Congress reauthorize this bill and get this money that we need to revitalize our cities, and it forms the economic foundation of the U.S.'s global competitiveness. So turning to streets, one reason that we're resurfacing more streets is that we are able to do more thanks to our leadership in recycled asphalt. And so instead of landfilling pavement that we scrape from the streets and importing all new aggregate, we're actually able to take that material, reprocess it, and then use it to repave city streets. And so it doesn't look like high-tech green infrastructure, but appearances can be misleading. This is actually our Hamilton plant in Brooklyn, and we continue to refine our process for recycling asphalt and are on track to hitting 50% recycled asphalt on all city streets. You can keep abreast of the work that we're doing in great detail. I'm the proud publisher on Tumblr of the daily Pothole. Great reading. You should definitely sign up for this. It is really where infrastructure geeks and social media types come together. And I urge you to check out the daily postings. And finally, and this links back to all of our work on street design, and that is the capital and construction work that follows on the heels of the very rapid transformation that you've seen in the city with paint. This is on Broadway before. All of you have seen Broadway? Everybody seen Broadway? Okay. Or just go outside and see Broadway. And, we were initially criticized for work on Times Square and all along the spine of Broadway from 59th now down to 14th Street for creating public space using traffic cones and dilapidated lawn chairs. But we've also seen how that space has now evolved with high-quality street furniture and street treatments. And we're now moving ahead with the long-term transformation and redesign of Times Square with high-quality permanent materials. And I think it's really important to highlight that the debate is not just about what kind of pavers we're putting into Times Square. There is really important infrastructure work that's taking place underneath Times Square. It's a very complex infrastructure problem that has to be solved underneath this area. And so I really want to end by noting that the capital program follows on the heels of these public spaces where we've used more operational materials to really outline these new spaces. Initially, I think, New Yorkers had been really tired. They've been waiting generations to see changes in their streets. And so changing that use of a street in close to real time has really been really important in getting people used to looking at their streets in a whole new way. And we've got dozens of plazas that are now under construction across all 5 boroughs. But I do want to reiterate that what I said at the outset, that we're able to do all of the high-profile work that we're doing and bringing our streets into closer alignment of really what we need to do to be a 21st century city, because we're taking care of the basics. So, with that, we can create more public space. With that, we can implement widespread programs to deliver safer streets. And where's the safer street? There it is. Just happens like that. Press of a button, safer street. And we're able to continue to remake the city's bus system. We have the largest bus fleet in North America and the distinction of the slowest bus speeds. And we can do a much better job of getting people across town. There was just recently a competition. I think it was between a guy on a trike and a bus. Guess who won? So with a lot of the select bus service projects that we're implementing, we're able to actually make some major improvements without waiting the years that it can take to get a major capital program done on the subway. We're also building a great and growing cycling network with over 260 miles of on-street bike lanes, and developing a new business model to deliver a world-class bike share system for New Yorkers, which we will have in place next summer. And we're able to do this all because we are managing, we are investing, we are fighting for resources for our core infrastructure programs to improve our street and road networks. And so I just really want to thank you for the opportunity to talk about some of our less heralded work on the streets of New York. Everything that we do is very well documented, so I urge you to go either on Facebook, on Twitter, online, and check out what we're doing to really improve the streets of New York, to ensure that we have a future that is bright and that we like when we open the door in 2030 and step out onto the streets. Thank you.